Hey there, I'm Christina from the blog Dessert for Two. I make dessert recipes that serve just two people. Cakes, cupcakes, cookies, everything serves just two. How do I make a pie that serves just two people? I'll show you today. I scaled down a basic pie crust recipe and I bake them in these little mini mason jar lids. They're so cute and portable, I can't get enough of them. Let's get started. First, we're gonna start with my favorite all butter pie crust recipe. I have this recipe memorized, it never lets me down, but the technique is just as important as the ingredient list, so I'm really excited to be able to show you my technique today. In this bowl, I have 3/4 cup of flour. I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. Just mix those together really quick. And then I'm using cold butter. This is right out of the fridge, keep it cold, that's crucial. I need 3 tablespoons today. Once you cut it off your stick, you want to cut the 3 tablespoons into about 12 pieces. You want little butter cubes going all through your dough. Okay, now we need to incorporate the butter into the flour. Some people do this with a pastry blender or 2 knives. I like to use my fingers. I think it's the most efficient way to do it. The way you want to incorporate the butter is like you're making the pay up sign in a gangster movie. You want to squish the butter between your fingertips. You're going to smear it all throughout the flour. This is a little bit of a process. It's going to take you a few minutes, but just relax and enjoy it. You're making pie crust. It's fun. I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. It's going to start to clump together on its own, and the flour is going to have a little bit of a yellow color from all of the butter. Okay, we're there. The mixture is starting to clump together on its own. That's what you're looking for. Next, we need to add the water and the vinegar. The vinegar is for tenderness. It relaxes the gluten and the wheat flour. I just add a 1/4 teaspoon of vinegar. This is apple cider vinegar. And then now it's time for the water. So this pie crust recipe calls for 2 to 3 tablespoons of water. Always start out on the lowest level. Start with 2 tablespoons, stir it together. If there's any dry patches or if there's dry flour at the bottom of the bowl, go ahead and increase it to 3 tablespoons. It really just depends on the type of flour that you're using, and it also depends on the weather. If it's a really humid day, you might not need the water. Some days I need it, some days I don't. I am gonna add it today because there's some dry clumps at the bottom. So this is 3 tablespoons of water. All right, once this dough comes together, you want to wrap it in plastic wrap, press it flat into a disc, and store it in the fridge for at least 30 minutes to relax the dough before you proceed. Now I'm gonna mix up the fruit filling for these pies. Today I'm using peaches, but you could really use whatever fruit you would like to use. If you're gonna use something really juicy like strawberries, just amp up the flour a little bit. This is 1 large peach. That should be good for 2 little mini pies. To this, I'm gonna add some spices. I'm gonna do a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon and a 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. So we need to sweeten it up just a little bit. I'm gonna do that by adding a tablespoon of regular granulated sugar. Now as a thickener, while the peaches bake in the oven, we need a little bit of flour. 2 teaspoons should be perfect. The last thing you're gonna add is a teaspoon of lemon juice. Squeeze it cut side up to leave out all the seeds. Perfect. So just stir this together and set it aside while we roll out our pie crust. So this is my pie crust after it chilled for 30 minutes in the fridge. I'm gonna roll it out. First, sprinkle your surface pretty liberally with flour. Sprinkle the top too, and then roll. You wanna roll this out to be about enough room for 4 mason jar lids because we're doing double crust pies. That looks about the right size. I have enough room to do 4 of these, even though we're only making 2 little mason jar lids. So the first thing you want to do is flip this upside down. You want the rubber ring down when you're baking the pies, so it touches only the metal. So use this as a guide for how big to cut out your pie crust. Cut about a 1/2 inch around. You're going to do it twice for each pie crust. Put your lid back in. Be gentle. Don't ever stretch pie crust. When you stretch it, it will always shrink back. So it's better to be a little generous and roll it a little too big than too small. All right, now it's time to fill with the peach filling. Just divide this between both pies. Cut out little circles for the top of your mason jars. Drape it gently over the top, and then you want to pinch the bottom and the top pie crust together. Go all the way around the edges. Just make sure you get a good seal. We're going to cut a slit in the top so some juices escape, but we don't want juices escaping from the sides. Okay, cut a little slit in the top just to give the steam somewhere to go. Finally, before baking, we need to brush these with something so that they get that characteristic shiny brown beautiful crust. In my free time, I've experimented a lot with pie crust toppings. Egg yolk is the only way to go. Cream is useless, as is milk. Egg white will eventually brown, but only at temperatures above 400 degrees. So I pretty much use egg yolk. And if you make a lot of desserts for 2, you have leftover portions of egg all the time. Brush it generously. This will make it nice and shiny. Okay. Before you slide it into the oven, you can sprinkle it with this sparkling sanding sugar. It's totally optional. I just think it's really pretty, so I always like to do it. I've preheated my oven to 400 degrees, and these are gonna bake for about 35 to 37 minutes. You're gonna know they're done when the top is nice and golden brown and some of the fruit is bubbling out of the little slit that you made. Whenever you're ready to serve, you need to pop them out of the mason jar ring. All you have to do is push up and they come right out. See, aren't they cute? Let's cut into one. Look at all that peach filling with all of the spices. If you're eating these right out of the oven, be careful, they're pretty hot, but I can't resist. I'm gonna take a bite. These are so good. I love this recipe because I get to eat an entire pie all to myself.
We look high.